Democrats committed a literal war crime. Chuck Schumer, is cracking down on Zins.
Pouch packed with problems.
Chuck, you're a packed with problems. That pouch is the reason I'm solving all my problems at 6 a.m. every morning.
Because these nicotine pouches seem to lock their sights on young kids.
No, Chuck. The only thing that locks their sights on kids are your colleagues. I'm not saying nicotine is safe, but it is safer than an elementary school field trip to the White House. These jokes will never get old. Kind of like the kids Biden sniffs. I'm sorry, okay? I'll grow up. Unlike the Epstein Island staff. Sorry. Chuck Schumer is always taking things away that we enjoy. The lizard in a suit led to the banning of Four Loko. If you're too young to remember what Four Loko is, it was basically a Panera charged lemonade and two buzzballs together. And this is an attack on our human rights. Our founding fathers would not stand for this. George Washington would lead an army to battle over this, and Thomas Jefferson warned us against this. Andrew Jackson, well, he probably could have used one. And Richard Nixon, okay, I promise I'm done after that, wouldn't even do this. And he did Watergate. There's only one man that can save us from this 9/11 equivalent, and his name is Tucker Carlson.
Sin is not a sin. Zin is a life.
Ladies and gentlemen,
The Semi-Daily Night Show with Gary TV, your host, Gary.
Tonight's ceremonial first pitch. And please welcome the President of the United States.
We did it, Joe.
just making sure you're paying attention.
Joe Biden called people and forgot. Just kidding. A deepfake of Biden is going around and telling people to save their vote for the election. Now, I don't vote. I think it's as useful as a Bible quote in an OnlyFans girl's Instagram bio. But even I know that's not how it works. Also, the man stumbles through a sentence like Hillary Clinton after a speech. So you should know that the call is fake if Biden sounds coherent. We do have real footage of Biden recording a phone call, though.
Let's talk about buttered sausage. Talk about buttered sausage, where it comes from, what it does, why is it doing what it's doing, get it out of my face.
Jokes, that wasn't him. But it seems like there's money in this, and my morals are about as straight as a roller coaster. So I have created my own deepfake agency called Type In for Biden, and we generated our first call to sell to the Biden administration, since no one will sponsor the show, and I want government-sized checks.
Hey, fellow citizens, I'm going up against the Don again. We haven't put him in jail yet, so I might be fucked. But don't worry, we got a lot of votes coming in from people like Matthew Perry and Jimmy Buffett, so we are looking good. But I need your help. Get out and vote, because if you don't, you ain't black.
Patriot Front, basically adult ROTC, was filmed in the New York City subway. The Patriot group that is probably more federally funded than the Ukraine war. While these guys are out on their rehearsals, they didn't get much support, except from guys that look like that. Shocker. The group that probably spends too much time on Reddit marched through New York with a sign saying, "America is not for sale," except everything in America is for sale. We're a capitalist country. China literally owns most of our real estate. And during their march, they had to go visit the food court because their mom definitely forgot to pack their lunch. And their leader, who looks like a sober Johnny Depp, gave a speech at the National Archives. Now, giving a Republican-style speech in New York is as useful as these guys' combat boots. No one is going to listen to you there. Everyone's too busy doing shit to care what your field trip is doing. And they learned the hard way. New Yorkers bullied them so much they had to leave in a 98 Corolla that smells like 87 burning and EBT. And there's no judgment. I say that objectively. You're responsible for inflation, according to the Alantic. The magazine that feels like what you would get if you took every liberal on Twitter and gave them a word count to hit. I mean, I'm a guy who wears sunglasses indoors and yells into a $30 microphone, yet I'm doing more journalism than their political writers. Like, is this entire feed a Portlandia sketch? Do people actually believe this? The journalist blaming everyone for inflation and not the government is journalist Annie Lowrey. And with some actual journalistic research, instead of telling poor people it's their fault they're poor, I learned how she came into this intellectual stance. She's rich. She went to Harvard, as most people with out-of-touch opinions do. Told ya. And while at Harvard, she wrote a blog about having an imaginary Syrian boyfriend. Yet she married that guy, who's as Syrian as I am a journalist. There is very little info on her parents, which means Jeffrey Epstein was her dad. That's a joke for legal reasons, but it's not for obvious reasons. Her husband is the co-founder of Vox. Vox is a new site that convinces everyone journalists should be replaced by AI, and I hope they are. He's vegan, which explains why he works for Vox. In the article, she goes on to say people are spending more money than ever, and that people have more money on hand to buy things. Who? What people have more money? The people at your country club who would be upset if you did marry a Syrian guy? Or the ones who write dumb articles like saying being a welder doesn't pay a lot? Anyone who works for the Atlantic doesn't even know a welder. They sit inside their Brooklyn apartments and wear masks inside their car while they're driving alone. Welders laugh at these kinds of people. So it's not surprising that staff of Trust Fund Babies are blaming inflation on you. Senator Scott Wiener is being a dick. The man who personified his last name is introducing legislation that mandates new vehicles be installed with an intelligent speed limiter. He went on to say there's no reason anyone should be going 100 miles an hour on a public road. Well, Scott, no one's wife should have a boyfriend, but that didn't stop you. Also, the banning of people driving recklessly would wipe out my entire social media feed. I love a good takeover video. You know the ones I'm talking about, where people do donuts and financed Hellcats and the entire block has a sum total IQ of 13. It takes a special kind of person to think giving the government control over a vehicle is a good idea. Basically the entire Atlantic staff. Senator Scott Wiener doesn't just want to install intelligent speed limiters. He wants to install onboard cameras, so he can see what you do when you get to the last word in verse 1 of No Role Models by J. Cole.
Martin Luther King would have been on Dreamville talking to him.